there, my name is Emma. I'm an artist and DIYer. Welcome to my channel. I recently did a video on Pinterest's 2022 trend predictions, and this is kind of part 2 of that video of more trend predictions for this upcoming year, or this year. I'll try to link that other video down below. In that video, I did checkerboard pattern / print, which I think got in the background, one of the DIYs, goth, and then pearls. In this video, I'll be doing Greek decor, curves, and plants. Those are all set to be trending in 2022. They're already kind of starting to trend. Well, it is 2022. I keep forgetting the last one I recorded was in 2021, but they're already trending last year and this year, and I can't wait to see how these trends progress. If you like this video, make sure to like it, physically, actually, subscribe, follow me on Instagram where I post daily updates, on TikTok, all of that fun stuff, but let's get right into the video. The first thing I made was a propagation station out of an upcycled dowel. If you don't know what a propagation station is, it's a place where you can put all of your cuttings, your plant cuttings, in water and let them soak until they get roots before you can plant them. This particular dowel was from Facebook Marketplace. I actually bought a ton of scrap wood that was actually from an artist who lived to be 101. Her name was Eleanor Reed, and I'm actually doing a whole series on her on TikTok and all of the things that I'm upcycling from her collection. But that's where this piece of wood is from. So it's kind of got a cool story to it. Her husband worked at a lumber yard, and he would bring her all these scraps of wood, and then she would turn them into art. So I got it on Facebook Marketplace. It ended up being a really, really cool story, but obviously you can just get a dowel at a hardware store or a craft store. This one's fluted, but you can just use a regular dowel for this as well. Just make sure it's at least an inch or bigger. I love this one so much because it's super versatile in the way you can arrange it. It turned out so cute, and here's how I did it. I started off with this fluted dowel that was very much obviously a wood scrap, so it's kind of dirty looking, and I started measuring out a few different lengths. I did 10 inches, 11 inches, 8.5 inches, 7 inches, so I had a variety of lengths. I can list them in the description to make it a little bit easier. And then I went to my scroll saw and cut them all up. At this point, I had posted this on my story, them after they were cut up, and everyone said they look like churros. So if you think they look like churros, you are not alone. After I cut them up, I used my belt sander to get them as flat of a bottom as possible. This is not the best saw for this, so they're not going to be perfectly straight, but that's okay. Then I tried to find the middle in each of them, and I ended up using this very large drill, but before I did that, drill bit I should say, and before I did that I used a smaller drill bit, and then I went ahead and used that giant drill bit to get a few inches down for my test tubes to go into. Now, because of that whole churro debacle, I posted on my stories because so many people had DM'd me that they look like churros, and most people voted that I should stain them. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I stained them, well, actually I just painted them with acrylic paint. I made sure to get all the sides, and this was really nice because it evened it out. These had been sitting outside for forever, and I took these test tubes. They fit right in there, and that's it. This was super simple. This wasn't a very complicated project. I love how it turned out. You can adjust them however you want, arrange them however you want. It's just such a cool result. I've actually used these test tubes for another DIY, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. These ones, I'm not going to link them because they're a little bit too small, I think, for propagation. They're about 3 inches, and I did measure it before I ordered them, but it's still not very big. So I would definitely order some that are larger than 3 inches and a little bit bigger than the ones that I'm showing you, because just for propagation you want there to be space for the roots to grow, and this doesn't allow a ton of space for the roots to grow. So you want a little bit bigger test tubes. But I love how this one turned out. It's so cute. Again, versatile. You can arrange it however you want. You can paint it whatever color you want. And the fun thing about this is you could also put candles in them. They are, however, slightly wobbly, so I would put some museum wax or tape on the bottom of them. The correct saw to use would have been a miter saw, but I don't have space for a miter saw right now, so I used a scroll saw, which, you know, I'm the one who's setting the straightness instead of the saw setting the straightness. So they are a tiny bit wobbly, and I don't want them to knock over with water in them, so I would put some museum wax or something to stabilize them, or put them in a place where it's unlikely that they will tip over. This next DIY is is so much fun. It's for the Greek style that's supposed to come in. I can definitely already see influences of it. I had a bust painting on my Etsy a while ago, and I don't know about you, but when I think of Greek art slash decor, I think of busts and statues. Now these aren't technically actually Greek statues, but they kind of get the general vibe of it. So I decided to make paintings of Greek busts, and here's how I did it. I started off with two 9x12 canvases. It doesn't have to be this size, that's just the size I used, and then I used a piece of paper to create a little template, and this is going to be the arch shape that's going to be in the background. I just wanted something fun to add a little bit of detail so it wouldn't be just the Greek portrait. So this is a great technique if you ever want to make a template. To make it even, you just kind of fold it, hamburger, hot dog style, whatnot. And then I just went ahead and centered it and traced it on both as evenly as possible. I use these 2 shades of brown from Home Depot. I love Home Depot colors. You'll see that again and again on my channel. I'm a huge fan, and I pretty carefully did the outside, making sure I got the edges, except for that was not careful of me, but it doesn't really matter because the inside's going to be painted over, so that's the most important part. So this darker brown is what I put on the inside, and I did this super carefully. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to be putting stuff over it, but I did want to throw a few coats of both colors on there. I took a ruler and kind of measured out how big I wanted my prints to be and then printed them out. And then this needed a different neckline, so I kind of traced that on there. So I knew where I wanted to trace, and I grabbed my tracing paper, tried to center it, and then I should have just traced the outline. I did not need to trace the insides because I'm going to need to do this again. You'll see, but I traced the whole thing on both. You only need to trace the outsides though. If this guy looks familiar, it's actually David by Michelangelo. It's not just a bust normally, it's a whole statue figurine, but if you recognize it, that's where it's from. I then went ahead and filled it all in with this green color. I just really like this color palette I was going for, and then at this point I'm going to line it up, tape it down so it doesn't move, and then slide my tracing paper under there to make sure I get all of the details in the face and retrace it. And of course I did the same thing for David as well, making sure I mark out where any shadows would be. I took this dark teal color, and at this point I didn't really have a solid plan, which you'll be able to tell of to what extent I wanted to make shadows. Initially I wanted to do like a 1-line drawing, but clearly that didn't happen because I was painting the shadows. So for David it was super simple. For the lady, I'm not sure if this is like a real Greek statue, it got kind of funky. So I worked on it until eventually I got this point. And I love how it turns out. I love the color palette, it's so fun. So I did have to do a lot of messing around on her face. I probably should have chosen a better picture with more consistent lighting. Again, I was planning on doing a 1-line drawing, but nevertheless, I don't want to make it that hard on you guys, so I'm going to try to figure out a way to photograph them or scan them and put them in a Google Doc, or maybe I'll link them to like an old website of mine so you can actually take my drawings, print them out, and trace them. Don't like sell them or anything. This is just for fun. Don't ruin the fun. But I am gonna try to give you my paintings so you don't have to do any question work like I did trying to figure out what shadow should go where. So hopefully that helps. Also, as much as I do love the colors, when I called my boyfriend in to show him, he was like, "Is that the Statue of Liberty?" So I do realize and acknowledge that this green color is the exact green of the Statue of Liberty, especially with the lady. So I love the colors, but maybe if you're doing just women, don't do the green because it is very Statue of Liberty-esque. And of course you can do whoever, whatever you want. These are just 2 random ones I chose online, but do know that it looks like the Statue of Liberty, but I still think it's super cute. I am obsessed with this next one. It's also Greek. I wasn't initially planning on doing 2 Greek ones, but I had this vase that I was probably going to get rid of just because it wasn't fitting into my decor. It was gifted to me by my boyfriend's dad, and then I painted it, and then it was just kind of cluttering up my space. I have a lot of stuff. I make a lot of stuff and I have a lot of stuff, so I was planning on getting rid of it. But then I had this idea to make a Greek-inspired vase, and it turned out so amazing. Here is how I did it. I started off with this vase, which I had previously painted for a TikTok, so this is its second time being upcycled. And I grabbed these two types of orange, this kind of rusty orange and a bright orange, and I did end up adding other colors like white, some bright yellow, and then eventually I'll even add a darker yellow, and I just painted most of it. All the detail pieces I'll leave and then I'll paint black. I ended up doing like 3 or 4 coats, and you can tell I'm adding that kind of darker yellow, which made it the correct shade of orange in my opinion. And then I took some black acrylic paint and put that on all of my detailed areas. I then did some Googling and found this image from, I believe, another vase. Not sure what's going on here. I think they're giving this little soldier stuff, but I just traced it on. I didn't worry about it being perfect. At the end, you'll see this is like so far from perfect, but I did try to make sure that they're all kind of standing on the same plane, and I just traced the general shapes on there and had the paper curve around as I was going for all 3 bodies. I then grabbed a smaller brush and began doing the outlining. The insides I'll do in Sharpie, but all of the big rough outlines I did with just a small brush. Again, these really are not perfect at all. And then I took a Sharpie and did the big general lines. They can be super, super loose. I just gave myself some guidelines, and the faces are like so wonky, but it still looks good. I then again did more Googling and found some designs to go around it. This one felt very Greekish to me, and then I saw a lot of these teardrop shapes on Greek vases, so I added some teardrops, and then I continued that at the top. Again, this shape was also on like a real vase, so this, like, you don't have to follow this directly, right? There might be easier shapes to do. These just seemed pretty easy to me, and I was just trying to fill the space that I was having, and I was kind of improving as I was going. But the end result turned out so well. Again, you can tell it's not perfect, but it's such a vibe. This is probably my favorite of all of these. You could easily find a vase like that at the thrift store. I feel like that style was really, really popular. I know I've seen ones like that before, or just any regular vase will do. And I think it turned out so cute. The only thing I would change is potentially making the figures a little bit smaller so you could see all of them at once when you're looking at it from the front. But other than that, I'm so happy. And I cannot stress enough how imperfect, not perfect these have to be. These Greek artists were not going for photorealism in their vases. So do not feel pressured. This is not something where you have to be a great artist. You can rely on the tracing paper and just outline it and follow the lines. And you can be more careful than I was and really get accurate lines, but you do not have to be an expert painter for this. And I think it is so cool. I feel like vintage stuff is really coming back. And this is, I mean, what's more vintage than ancient Greece? I mean, I feel like it could be a really cool eclectic touch to any home. This next one is super simple. Curves are supposed to be in this year. They were in last year. I could see them in arched doorways, a lot of rattan curves. Curves never go out of style, but they are particularly in right now. This one is actually a dupe of something I saw at Urban Outfitters. When I saw this curved wood mirror, I was like, I gotta make it. It's not an option. It's super cute and it was so simple. Here's how I did it. I started off with some scrap plywood and then 2 plates, one that is a little bit bigger than my 10-inch mirror and one that is a little bit smaller. I happen to have the perfect sizes. I just get lucky like that. I then took it out to my scroll saw and cut out the outside shape, and then the inside shape. I ended up cutting that whole circle that I'll use for another project. And then I trimmed off the edges and we have our beautiful little arch. I sanded it with my belt sander and then by hand just to make sure I didn't have any loose splinters or anything weird. Now I hate the smell of stains, so I just used some brown acrylic paint mixed with water to smear all over to give it a little bit more of a luxurious dark look. You also want to make sure you paint the sides and the back as well, because when you're working with mirrors, it will reflect whatever's on the back side. I took some E6000, glued it on, and here is the finished result. It looks super similar to the original, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. This one was so quick, especially if you have the tools for it. I'm sorry if you don't have a scroll saw. If you follow my channel, you should really just invest in a scroll saw. It's such a great tool. You could probably use a jigsaw or a handsaw for this, but everything, your life will be better if you get a scroll saw. And I'm not even getting paid to say that. I love scroll saws. Maybe one day I'll get paid, become like a Wen scroll saw affiliate. But as of right now, I think you could get one. This is your sign. If you were thinking of getting a scroll saw, let this be your sign. But that is it for all of my DIYs. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, found it informative, exciting, all of those things. Make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe, follow me on all the stuff, you know the spiel, and happy making.